So we were kind of thinking that, like, in the future, about 5 minutes before the show starts, we could have people like throw in a couple of questions to kind of fill the time for the first 5 minutes while Josiah is taking care of technical stuff. And I'll babble on about whatever it is people ask. But the show's officially started. And one of the things I thought would be good to talk about is when you're living in the country. So this is not necessarily a homesteading thing, but a country living thing, which homesteading, I think is always country living. There might be some people that are like, trying to do the homesteading thing, urban style. And that's okay, but that's not me. But okay. Our well, one morning, like almost 2 weeks ago, definitely like more than a week, like maybe a week and a half ago or so, almost 2 weeks ago, we didn't have any water. And so we go out and look in the cistern, and the cistern is empty. And it's kind of like, uh-oh. So then we've had this happen before because we had a leak in our system, and it just, the pump would, there's two pumps. There's the primary pump, which is down deep at the bottom of the well, and then there's the secondary pump, which moves water from the cistern into a pressure tank, so that way it provides pressurized water to the house and the hydrants and stuff like that. And so the cistern was empty, and we've had that happen before, and it was a leak in our system where one of the hydrants had a leak, is what it turned out to be. And Fred fixed that last summer, and for the last two PDCs we've had water shortages, and we thought that our well just didn't provide very much water, but it turns out it was a leak, and so now we got lots of water until about 2 weeks ago. So Jim is an electronics dude who's one of our residents, one of our full-time residents, and he and Fred got together and went over the system and came to the conclusion that there's a short in the pump at the bottom of the well, 300 feet down. At least we thought it was 300 feet down. When we're going to pull it up, we're kind of thinking like, okay, if it's 300 feet down, it's probably poly pipe that goes from, the top of the well down to the pump. We open it up, and I'm used to seeing like a rope right there where you could grab hold of the rope and pull the whole thing out. And there was no rope. Oh no. Oh no. So it's like, all right. We can do this. We can see it. We can see it's down there about 6 feet inside the well. And the well's like, 6 inches in diameter. And so we're thinking like, okay, oh wow, look at all this stuff. It just appeared in the chat. Okay, so we get some stuff tied up to it, some ropes and some stuff, and we're estimating that the weight of all of it is probably about 300 pounds. We're thinking like, okay, so there's going to be a bunch of poly pipe that goes from the pump, which is down 300 feet up to the top, and then there's going to be, all of the electrical wires, which might weigh, 100 pounds or so, and then there's going to be the pump itself. So we're thinking about 300 pounds. So we tied a bunch of rope onto it, and then we got it hauled up where the top of the pipe is just at the top of the well opening, and then we added some straps just in case. So we've got plan A and plan B. And we used the tractor to help lift it up. And so we're feeling pretty good about it. And then the rope broke. And it's like, the rope broke? I mean, that was a pretty heavy-duty rope. And then once it dropped a few inches, that was enough to break the straps. And then it all went down inside the well. That 6 inches wide well. It's all down in there. And it's like, okay, so I get my flashlight. Hey, I want to see my flashlight. Huh? So I get my flashlight out. I'm thinking like, this is an incredibly powerful flashlight. I'm going to shine it down there, and we're going to see how far down it is. We just see infinite hole. And it's like, oh no, this can't be good. So eventually we find out about like if you take a mirror and you get the sun to be reflected down there. And it was a cloudy day, but as luck should have it, we got this moment of sunshine, and we had a mirror, and that did help. What we saw is, yeah, that's a long ways down there. That is like 50 feet down there. It's so far down there. All right, so we then Fred fashioned up. He cobbled up a hook, and we went and we bought like 100 feet of steel cable, tied it to the hook, and Fred went fishing for about 4 hours until he hooked that thing, and we managed to bring it up. And so we're thinking it might be more than 300 pounds, but we're not sure. And we get it up, and we find out that the first link is steel pipe, and it's like, okay, there's probably poly pipe attached to that. So we have a system for lifting it out using the tractor. And the tractor can lift a ton, and so we know definitely under a ton. So we lift, and then we lower, and we lift, and we lower, and then Fred and the guys came up with like some interesting contraptions to keep it from falling back in, and we get that link out, 20 foot of pipe, which is pretty standard for wells, as each link is 20 feet, and there's another piece of pipe underneath that piece of pipe. So now we're thinking like, no poly pipe, and then better part of a day later. We've got more than 300 feet of pipe pulled out, and it still seems mighty heavy. In the end, it turns out our well is 600 feet deep.
Nice.
And so we've got all of that out. And
that must have been a really expensive well to dig or to drill.
I think so, because it turned out really expensive in order to be able to replace the pump. So I think that just the cost of just the pump, to replace just the pump, which we got a slightly more powerful pump than what was installed, but just the cost of the pump, I believe it was $1,800 for just the
yeah. Well, you got to need a pretty good pump to pump 600 feet.
Yeah.
How far up does the water go? Like, how far down is it before you hit water?
That's a great question. You just come right on over here and you
start measuring,
and then you tell us.
Yeah.
Because what we've gone through now has been, did I mention it's been damn near 2 weeks? So, fortunately, we've got a couple of boots here. We call them boots. They're part of the permaculture boot camp, who are helping out. And Kai helped out some. And then Jim has been helping out with some of the electronic stuff. But Fred runs the boot camp. So we get the whole thing out. Man, I still have this cough. We get the whole thing out, find the short. We put the new pump on, and then we're going to go put it back in. And then somebody says, "Well, why don't we do poly pipe?" And what we've learned is that poly pipe doesn't work that deep. I mean, even if you've got like a cable holding onto the pump, so that the pump is not hanging off the end of the poly pipe, that the poly pipe just can't hold its own weight at that length. Poly pipe does not work that. So it's like, okay, so now we know why they have the steel pipes. And then one of the guys was kind of pointing at the steel pipes, and he's saying like, I think that pipe looks a little thin right there, like a little bit of rust got started right there. You see that? And it's on like half the pipes, and it's like, should we do something about that? Should we just reuse this pipe and it'll be okay? So then the guys got the idea of cutting off the existing threads, and then they went to a local place that had the gear to be able to put new threads on it, and so put new threads on each of the pipes. So each of the pipes has been shortened by 3 inches, and we got one extra piece of pipe to compensate to get us to the right length for the right depth. So it's all, so the pump is all back inside. The short is fixed. The apparently the motor was seized, was part of it, and it's all back in there, which took a hell of a long time to get it back in there. And then we go to start it up again, and we learned that the controller is shot. So right now Jim is in Missoula picking up a new part for the controller. And Jim's a solder jockey, so it's like, oh, why buy a whole new one? I could just solder in a new capacitor, no problem. I was like, oh wow, cool, all right. And so hopefully, here in a couple of hours, the cistern will start filling again. That's my story. So I have not had a proper shower in a long time.
Yeah, you're pretty stinky right now, right? Which is, nothing new.
Okay. Look at all this stuff coming in. Are you reading all of this?
Yeah, briefly I did. Well, geez, there's more now. Adam's sharing resources. It looks like he says, been attempting to add these to several conversations with Paul that Paul's been involved in. It's an energy chart from Saul Griffith that shows all U.S. energy sources and tracks their usage. He has used this to create a company where he's focused his innovations on impacting these. Uses it as a smart or a sort of market identifier, the energy chart. Honestly, the chart is impressive, but challenging to use. The first talk from one of the creators is very insightful on the chart. The second is just interesting to watch. So apparently there's multiple talks you can watch, which 5 minutes. We'll have to review them first to see if they're worthy.
So maybe Josiah, maybe you can check that out. Because I like the part where I just show up and I go blah, blah, blah. And then I turn it all off and I get on with my life. I like the part that, because there's a ton of work involved in like each video.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've put a bunch of videos up on YouTube. I've got a pretty clear idea of what work is involved. And the thing I like about this show is you do all that work. I don't have to do anything.
Yeah, you even
I just show up.
Was it you or someone would put in a Permies post like, how do we do this? What's involved with this? And so I replied with not everything, but like, all right, well, this is kind of how the flow works. And I'm writing it, I'm going, I could do a lot of this in the time I just spent explaining what I do. Yeah, it's a ton of work.
You get a system down, you get pretty good at it. It's kind of like with podcasts. Jack edits it himself. Mm-hmm. And then he posts it himself, and he's got it all, a bunch of it kind of automated, but that's his thing. He's going to spend some time recording it, then he's going to spend a couple of hours massaging it, and then he's going to put it up.
Yep.
And for me, when I record a podcast, I'm kind of like, I got the device, and then I shut it off, and then I want to like
hand it to someone.
Oh, it's got a thing on it there. Oh, get it on you.
Yeah. So that's what this show is.
Yeah, it's like that. Here, just take this. Okay.
Here's stuff.
Yeah, it's got something on it. You might want to look at that.
Well, I have been getting a lot of appreciation emails from the viewers, so thank you guys. It does mean a lot. Yeah.
I saw some place where there was a big love fest for this show. So, Yay!
Yeah, we actually, someone wrote in and was like, my husband is not into permaculture, but now he watches your show, and that's awesome. So, that's good.